evening, all the wonderful people out there in cyberspace who have joined us for this edition of Mek We Chat. You know what we call Thursday evening? It's the happiest place on radio. It's where we talk about very, very serious stuff, stuff that's impacting us in our daily lives. But we do it in a very light-hearted way because we don't want anybody blood pressure to go up. We don't want anybody to go rush for the Valium. We want you to relax, think of the issues, take action in your little corner of the corner of the world, I should say. Do what you can, work on what you can to make this world a better place. And you can only do that by doing what you can do. We have to do it in small bits. And that's what we do right here on Mek We Chat. Right now, we seem to be missing some suspects, but we are about ready to get rolling with George Grant at the controls. Good old faithful George Grant at the controls as usual. We have a guest suspect. That's Mr. Fitzgerald Naka Joseph. Not an unfamiliar name to many people in Grenada, but he's going to introduce himself in a little while and tell us all about the excitement that has brought him here this evening. And I believe we have another suspect there in the studio, George, do
A young lady by the name of I think it's Mags we just call her, Margaret
we?
Francis.
So why is Mags hiding from us?
She has abandoned you guys on the big screen tonight and chosen to
Yep.
let me have her distinguished company.
Okay, but we can't see her. There's an
No,
empty
you
chair over
can't.
there. She should be sitting in it.
Them people out there could see her though. Too bad for you.
Yeah, so we can't see her, but we can hear her.
Yes, I'm here.
From diaspora, New York, New York, where you have probably have more Caribbean people than Americans.
I know, right?
No, but that section of the US, I believe. So welcome everyone. Welcome to all the suspects. And we are missing Catherine this evening. Catherine is over there in London, as we all know, where it is burning up. And Catherine says she's unable to join us because she is suffering from heat exhaustion. She hasn't been able to sleep in the past 24 hours due to the heat. And our thoughts and our very best wishes are with you, Catherine. Take care of yourself. Take very good care of yourself. And please do, I'm sure you will, but we have to say, do everything you can to keep cool. And we look forward to you joining us next time around. So we're going to jump right into it. We have quite a few things on the menu. I'm still expecting Mr. Aki Martin from Dominica to join us because on the menu we want to look at elections in Dominica. Dominica is in full election mode. Their general election is constitutionally due by May next year, May 2020. So that's just a few months away. And the island is in full election mode. Campaigning is going on in all shapes and forms. And you have a citizens group that's calling for some reforms. And I certainly hope Aki will join us so that we can look at some of the issues, some of what's happening there in Dominica, which which reflect what happens across the Caribbean and things that we should look at, pay attention to it so that we can deal with some of them in our country as we try and work very hard to preserve or maybe to implement a new form of democracy that is really free and fair and that takes the views of the people into consideration and really gives attention to it. Because we look at Brexit over there in the UK, the people voted since 2016. 2016 it was they had the referendum, George?
Yep.
Leave the European Union. And 2 years later, they are still there because you have people who do not want to leave the EU, frustrating the will of the people. And I don't know what else is left to be said about leaving the EU, why they shouldn't leave after the people voted to leave. So we really need to get back to government for the people of the people, by the people, for the people, your vote need to mean something. If you vote to leave, you should leave. But it's so far, it's been a frustrated society. They are still in the EU. The new Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who was sworn in this week, has promised that October 31st is it. They will be out. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if what the people ask for will finally be delivered.
Yep.
So we have a guest suspect with us this evening who is going to be talking about a project that he completed and brought to fruition. And I won't say much about it because he's here and he will tell us about what he has done for the parish of St. John in Grenada. Also on the menu, we look at the Spice Mass Corporation procurement procedures that were taken to court this week. And we also want to look at the awarding of a contract in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I hope our St. Vincent suspect turns up as well. But we'd really love to look at this issue of the awarding of a contract in St. Vincent. That was also taken to court. And no, that was not taken to court.
Oh.
That ended up with the funding agency, the Caribbean Development Bank, withdrawing its funding because it said the contract was not properly awarded. So we're gonna jump right in, I think, with our guest suspect. Since he talk about jump up in Guave, we'll make sure that we give him a chance to go first, so that if he wishes to exit at any time during the evening, he can, and we will not be charged and be fined for holding him against his will. So go ahead, introduce yourself, Naka, tell people who you are and a little bit on your background leading up to the writing of your book.
All right, well, pleasant good night to everyone. Most people know me in the basketball arena as Coach Naka Joseph. My name is sort of synonymous with basketball, both at the local and regional level, because I've done a number of coaching clinics in Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Mek We, Ashton, Tobago. So I've done Guyana. I've done a number of work throughout the region. So most people know me as being synonymous with basketball, but not really as somebody who writes. And I've been thinking about this project for a number of years now. As a matter of fact, what I did first was in 2012, I did a book on the history of basketball in Grenada, where I tried to put most of the history from 1951, when basketball started in Grenada, up until maybe around 2012-13. But lately, what I've did with my last publication, and I don't know if you could see it here properly.
Yeah.
The energy of
The Energy of Gouyave.
Energy of Gouyave. Really, what I try to cover here is the history of sports in the parish of St. John's, which take into account people that would have participated, and not only people from Gouyave that would have participated, but you have people from St. George's and the other parishes as well who would have taken part in sports. So their names would show up in the book as well, along with pictures of them, especially those who would have been on national teams over the years with some of the top athletes from Gouyave. So what I did is to try and cover sports in the parish, 21 sporting disciplines from 1948 to present. I try to get as much pictures as possible. It took me about maybe 4 years to put that together. I have about 200 and maybe 28 photos in there, along with writings and other clippings and stuff of most of the sports people. I try to cover the official, the administrators, the sponsors, as much as I could within that 4-year period, and hope that going forward, maybe I could update the book maybe every 5 years with some of the stuff that I would have missed out, or some information that I didn't have before. So in a nutshell, that is what I try to capture, because one of the things that I've noticed over the years too is that a lot of sportsmen were able to break that barrier. We have a serious belief problem where that we believe that everything foreign is better. and that people coming out of the islands does not have the ability and stuff to do better than some of the athletes and them out in the bigger islands or bigger countries, I would say. But not only, well, it culminates, sorry, with Kirani James doing his due on the world stage and winning the Olympic World Championship and even getting a silver, I think, in his second Olympics, and also winning the Commonwealth Games as well, along with some other junior and youth medals that he would have won at the gold level. But prior to him, we had athletes like Donald Pierre in his 70s and Dunstan Campbell, the Catalan athlete, and they would have competed against the best, like Donald Pierre ended up defeating Fred Newhouse, I think it was, who was either the world or Olympic champion at that time in his 70s. And Donald Pierre running on grass was running, one of the top times he did in 76 was 47 seconds in a 400 meters. And that took us about what, maybe almost 40 years before somebody would have gotten below that 47 seconds. We have athletes in the area of martial arts, for instance, that competed in Japan. We have Master Dario, his name comes to mind right off the bat. You have Michael Sutherland, you have Cecil Joseph, who sort of started the whole thing in the 70s as well, because martial arts started in Gouyave, as a matter of fact, and spread
Really?
to the other parishes as well. I didn't hear you.
I said that's interesting. That is
We started in
really kicked off, no pun intended.
I didn't get that.
I said that is interesting.
Okay, thank you very much. We also had some of the top football players, and one of the football players that really moved me to sort of pen the information into a book form is a guy by the name of Peter Pongdal. We used to call him Perry. And he played in the 50s and 60s, and he was so dynamite, but I was not aware of it because he used to be passing right in front where I live all the time, because he's a fisherman and a baker. And I never knew, well, I mean, I was young at the time, 13, 14 years, so I never knew how good he was until when he died. I noticed a number of dignitaries came up, like George Maguire, I think the Speaker of the House. We have Mr. Sandy Taylor. Most of these people would have died now, but these were the people that came up to the funeral. And I, as a young man, standing there watching, I'm wondering, well, who, which dignitary would have passed? And the people said to me, no dignitary, it's Perry. So I said, Perry? I said, so how Perry know these people? And because I know him to be a fisherman, so all these people. And then they said, no, he used to play football with those people and them. And I said, well, he have to be really good for him to, be up with what we call, quote unquote, the big boys at the time. Mm-hmm. And they told me yes. So what I did was I went about and did about close to 100 interviews with a number of different players, both young and old, in the 30s, 40s, guys in the 50s, 60s, to sort of confirm if what I'm hearing was true, that he was really, without a doubt, one of the best footballers that Grenada has ever seen. And they tell me, yes, he was. Started with Sandy Taylor. Mm-hmm. Then I spoke to him. I spoke to William Gittins before he passed as well. I spoke to Sampat Habin, Commissioner Clarkson, Diane Marquez, who was one of the best players we had from the parish as well at the Windward Islands level. I think he won the Windward Islands maybe 4 times. I spoke to players from St. Mark's. You have Alston George and most of the other guys that I played at Don George and Ashley George. And those guys, I spoke to them before they passed as well. And everybody confirmed that this man was truly a genius in the game. I spoke to Mr. Raymond Steele at the time, who used to save for Atoms. Right? He's still around. And, he was telling me about how good this man was. And, he sort of really jolted me, because I couldn't believe, such a simple man was performing at this level and nobody knew about him. So I just thought it was necessary that I put that in particular. I was only going to write about that, but then I said, no, you can't just write about that. I tried to cover all the other disciplines in the parish. But there are really some interesting people and athletes covered in the book. We have, for instance, today we talk about Anderson Peters as a javelin thrower, but we have this young lady called Natalia Vincent, and she would have beaten the Jamaicans on 4 occasions at the Carifta Games, winning goal in 4 times. You know, that's not an easy feat to do, to defeat Jamaica at the Carifta Games at any level, you know, any day, whether it's track, field events, whatever, it's always difficult to defeat them. And she was able to win for 4 consecutive years. I mean, that was, I mean, really a tremendous feat. And we have a lot of other, you know, information in there that, you know, it would take me maybe all the 2 hours to sort of go through and stuff to tell you the amount of information that I have in there. It's really a phenomenal piece of work based on the reports that I got from most of the people that would have bought it. It's 210 pages, and if Mr. Grant would allow me to do a little bit of sales on the show, it's 65 EC, it's 25 US. I think it's 30 Canadian, I think it is somewhere around there, 20 pounds or something like that. But I've been sending out books to the US as well, so the shipping and handling is about additional 5-6 US. So people has been calling in and making requests and sending the money down, and I was sending off some of the books, you know, to them as well. I sent off some in the UK as well. But locally,
I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
Right. Now, you talk about over 200 interviews, collecting pictures over 4 years. Many people do not realize the amount of work that goes into publishing a book. When you hear someone has completed a book and the book is launched, many don't understand what goes on prior to that. How much help would you have gotten in putting the work together, editing, proofing, all the other things?
Sure. Well, I started editing earlier. There's a neighbor of mine, she lives in Spain. She would have assisted me when she come to visit her mom. She would always assist me with some of the editing. She did most of the editing in the first book, and she also started doing some editing with me in the second book. But Pansy Small, formerly Pansy Hostin, she did most of the editing. She used to teach at the Anglican High School. I think she's retired now. Yeah, she did most of the editing, and I never knew that, you know, editing was such a drag. I mean, I couldn't believe so much work had to go in. I mean, I have to sit down there virtually for hours, and we keep going over this thing, and I was saying, I can't. You know, it's THED, and no, it's not THED, it's THES, it's these and those, and no, you need a comma here and a semicolon here, and what you're trying to say here? No, well, you can't take that out. You have to take and this thing over. I mean, that was the roughest part for me.
Hey, Naka.
Like that. I mean, that was really tough. Days we keep going over that stuff.
Naka.
I had to come back, and she's gonna look at it again, and they go through, and then.
Naka.
So she did a lot of work as well with me, and most of the stuff though, in terms of putting a book together, I have a nephew in Canada, and he's an architect. His profession is an architect. He does work for the Canadian state of Canada. Forget which part. Where is he? Inuvik, I think, somewhere way up in the cold. He does work there, but he is the person that put all this stuff together on computer. He does all the paging, he does the layout, he does it. So I didn't really have to get any publisher or so to do. All I had to do was to try and get a printer. He did all this stuff. We have a local person doing the cover, a local guy. We give him the information, and he put his concept together. I think he's a Mitchell guy. What's his name? Melvin. I think Melvin Mitchell. He put the cover together concept. They used a drone, and they took out a picture. If you look to the back of the book, I don't know if you could see it clearly. That is the St. John's area with the jetty coming out there, and the whole area of Gouyave. They did that sort of drone shot, and he was able to put the concept together. But like you said, the bulk of the work, like you say, in the editing part, I mean, collecting the pictures for me and talking to people and trying to verify dates and making sure that the dates that they give me is correct. You had to talk about 5, 6, 7 persons to know if it was 1976 and not 1975, and it's really 1976. You know, you have to keep going over that stuff, and it's sometimes difficult, like you say, to do books that are historical, because you have to try and get it as close to, you know, the dates and things as possible.
George was trying to ask a question. Were you
Sorry.
here? George was trying to ask you a question. but you didn't seem to be hearing him. Georgia
No,
want.
I'm not hearing him.
Yeah, Naka, can you hear me now?
Yes, you. I'm hearing you now.
Yeah, okay. You know, you were talking about editing a little while ago, and you referred to it as a bit of a drag. Now, Margaret and I are sitting here chuckling because both of us, having been in broadcasting for a long time, we know that editing is, it can be tedious, but it's fun, man.
George need to give me some more volume. I'm hearing you much louder, Beverly, but somehow I'm hearing George really low.
How about now?
Yeah, go ahead now.
Okay, yeah. Margaret and I were sitting here listening to you talking about editing,
Yeah.
and you mentioned that it can be a bit of a drag. And we're laughing because we spend a large part of our lives, or have spent, editing. And as far as we're concerned, man, editing is fun. Yeah, it can be a challenge, but
Oh,
it's fun.
editing is fun.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you mean? Well, I guess you need to have your job because you being somebody in the radio business. I guess that's your work. I mean, on a daily basis, you have to be editing stuff. But for me, who basketball coaching really is my background.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not used to sitting for all these hours, going through stuff, going through a book. So it sort of hit me really hard then. But I guess maybe next time around, I might be able to fit into the scheme of things. But
You know.
But
that was really tough on me.
the end result can be very, very. The
You
end
saying
result.
something, Beverly? I didn't hear
I
that.
think
The,
Beverly.
I was saying that the end result can be very rewarding. I mean, right now,
Oh yeah, sure.
I bet you feel very proud about your book. Since I have your attention, Naka, there's somebody by the name of Anthony DeRiggs listening to you in New York right now. Do you know Mr. DeRiggs?
Anthony DeRiggs.
Anthony DeRiggs.
The name doesn't ring a bell right now.
You know a guy here named Chris DeRiggs?
Oh yeah, Chris DeRiggs is the writer, right? The playwright.
Right.
Yeah,
Chris's
that's his
brother.
brother?
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's listening to you in New York right now, and he says that he hopes Peter Pounder. He said Peter Pounder was a great footballer. He was a natural. You agree?
What he said?
He said that Peter Pounder was a great footballer, a natural.
A natural, yeah. I would say so.
Yeah.
He was sort of. I mean, when you listen to the things that they say about Peter Ponga, it have to be because before the Brazilians came with what you call chest trap, and everybody was fascinated how people were trapping the ball on the chest. They say Peter Ponga was trapping the ball not only on his chest, but he could have trapped it on his head as well.
Yeah.
And that was reported from Mr. Steele because he was saving, he was Autumn's goalkeeper at the time.
Okay.
So he was doing things that, was really unbelievable. For instance, I could remember CB Barnes. I think he used to work at the power station in the early time. He played with him as well, and Barnes was telling me he never ever see anybody take a ball from Peter Ponga when he have it. You cannot take the ball from him then. Like you could come into a tackle and you'll get a ball from him, and you never see anybody come into a tackle with him and take the ball from him if he has it. You just cannot get it. He couldn't understand why.
He also says here that he hopes that you have Dunstan Campbell in your book as well.
Yeah, Dunstan Campbell was one of the top decathlon. As a matter of fact, Dunstan Campbell did the forward for the book.
Okay, all right. All right, so Beverly?
Yes. I remember when Kirani James won the Olympic gold medal, there was a lot of clamoring to change the name of the Cuthbert Peters Park to the Kirani James Park.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why the name of the Cuthbert Peters Park should not have been changed?
Because somehow I just felt that, well, that's me speaking now, my opinion. I guess other people might have other opinions on it. I just thought that the way we conduct business in Grenada, I don't think that they would have named two stadiums Kirani James. And I was sort of fearful of something going wrong there because they started naming stands in the cricket stadium, right? They keep giving stands, so nobody really would be the cricket stadium would not be named maybe after anybody. I guess they'll be giving out stands. I'm not sure if anybody will be named. I mean, the cricket stadium will be named like how it's done in St. Lucia with Darren Sammy. They named the stadium after Darren Sammy. So I said that if they name Cuthbert Peters Park, and I think that people should be rewarded for the stuff. And Cuthbert Peters did tremendous work, right, in the parish, and he covered a variety of sports. And we thought at the time it was fitting for him to. So to change that to Kirani James, I mean, change yes, but I just felt that if that stadium was named Kirani James, I don't think they would have named the stadium in St. George's. I mean, a subject to correction, Kirani James Stadium.
Right, but the other question is, why is Cuthbert Peters important to Guelph?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing
Cuthbert
too.
Peters, I mean, he not only played for St. John's Sports in 1953. I have a picture there in 1953 where he was a player as well. But what he did was he had St. John's Sports, which is the oldest football club in the island. I think they started somewhere around 1927, I think. He had that club under his command after most of the people like Johnny Branch and Mr. Steele and those guys that used to manage the team in the 50s passed. He took over, and he had both football and cricket. And I think he even had some other sports being played at St. John's Sports. He used to use his transport. He had his big boat bus, right? So he used to transport players all over the island to play for St. John's Sports. And not only that, he was the mainstay as far as the 24th of May sports in Guelph. We used to have athletes from maybe even the neighboring islands coming. It was one of the biggest sports. And that is where we had riders. We had people riding bicycle on grass. You wouldn't believe it, not on a velodrome. And maybe some of those guys maybe could have beaten some of those guys on them that may be riding in the velodrome today. They used to be riding on grass. You had people as what's his name? You had Paul St. John, you had Marquez, you had a number of people from St. George's, I think Leslie Bayer. If you just give me 1 second here. Riding.
You're checking your reference.
Yeah, just let me reference something here for you.
Gotta get it right.
Okay, riding. The people that came to Cuthbert Peters Park were like Donald Salmon, Donald Perrott and Bird Lahi from St. Mark's, and they were using non-gear bikes. Then you had Norris Lemrick photo pass recently. You had Dunstan Dabrio, Selvin Chikaboy, Alban. These people are from Guelph. Paul St. John, who does the air conditioning stuff now in St. George's. He was one of the top riders here as well. Diane Marquez, Trevor Peters, Dunstan Frederick. Trevor Peters is Cuthbert Peters' son. Also competing from St. George's, you had people like Ronald Williams. You had a guy named Pokehead. I couldn't get his name. We just know him as Pokehead. You had Tony Sherman, Carlton Bullen, Lennox Brown, Trevor Nichols, Roger Bayer, Leroy Monroe, Michael McIntyre, Timothy Young, and George Rennick. These were some of the people that came from St. George's to ride as well. So you find all these people and them are also chronicled in the book as well. So not only people from Guelph or people that played sports in Guelph, people that played sports in Guelph, from other parishes is also mentioned in the book as well.
And I think what you have done is really a very important work. And it is going to form a very, very, very significant part of the archives in Grenada about the country's history. And it is books like these you would really like to see in the schools to teach young people about, of course, to teach young people about the history of their own country. Because one of the reasons people were asking for the Cuthbert Peters Park to be changed is because nobody knew who Cuthbert Peters was. His
exactly. But you know, in that same bread missing play, it's kind of ironic that you mentioned that, because one of the things that we clamored for earlier and a committee was set up because they was asking how should they sort of honor the Olympians and what should they do. They was even mentioning stuff in Francis. And one of the things we mentioned was streets. They should name a street after. But it is strange because we have the street in Gouyave, the main street in Gouyave is called Depredin Street.
Right.
But nobody knows who is Depredin, where that name came from or whatever. And we asked that they change that name to Kirani James Street. And somehow we couldn't get it done. But you as you're mentioning about Cuthbert Peters, and nobody knew what he did, and he did so much, and we could state what he did, right? That is why the park was named after him. But no, we have Depredin, but we couldn't name that. They named I think the Lagoon Road after Kirani James.
Right.
So it still doesn't have a street really in Bob that is named
Yeah,
after.
but what should be done and what has to be done is the Pradine needs to be documented so that his contribution and his significance can be put down for generations to know. So that
we can find the things that I can't find Depredin. I talked to most of the historians and they don't know. They tried this one time. They told me that he was some island scholar. When I checked back and we read through, that was not true, because when they started giving island scholarship, the street was already named Depredin. By the time they started giving island, so that was not correct. So I don't know if that name either came maybe in the 1800s or something. Some Depredin person must have owned some house or some great house or something in the 1800s.
it will take some work, but I believe some information. There has to be some trickling of information, maybe in some other historical writing, maybe, because if it was in the 1800s, you probably do not have anyone alive today who would have known when that was happening.
Of course not. Yeah, that's correct.
But it would be good if there is somehow, somewhere, some way, maybe putting the call out there, some historian or somebody, because we do have historians in the region, we just do not write and document, and we do not give kudos to our writings, and we do not teach, we do not put our books in the school. That piece of work that you have done, an excellent example of what should be in the schools in Grenada. And not just in Grenada, it's information for the Caribbean, because some of these athletes went beyond the borders of St. John and Grenada. And we need to teach our history. And I absolutely applaud you for putting that work together. And I hope it gets the prominence that it deserves. And I certainly hope people will go out and buy the book and, read it.
Yep.
But
Naka?
Yeah, Mr. Grant.
Hey, George.
Oh, sorry.
Listen, hold on a minute. Anthony de Riggs has another comment here, which I think is very interesting. He says, I joined a little bit late, so I did not hear the title of the book. Does it concern Gouyave or St. John? If it is St. John, he will have to include the part played by cricketers from Florida, such as Hensley Ned, Victor Joseph, and Errol Alexis. What say you, bro?
Yeah, we have, I didn't mention cricket, but we have cricket. I have everything in there.
All right.
I spoke to Hensley Ned when he, just give me 1 second.
While you're checking it out, let's say good evening and welcome to Mr. Jerry George, who is propping his chin tonight. I don't know if he got socked or what. And the other character over there who's pretending to be a virgin, wearing a white shirt this morning.
Yes, George, we have cricket covered as well from the 60s, when you had teams like Texaco and Problem and Firestone, Atomic Rovers, Montgomery. You even had when I think they had the formation of the Western League. Executive members were Lionel St. Paul, he was president. Carly Glean was secretary, that is the former governor general. Rupert John is still around, and Thompson Crosby. Western League consisted of team as Mirai and Limbex with Winston White from St. Patrick's. Samaritan led by Dr. Japal, Victoria President Alston George, Oswald Bookus Trophy, Aubrey George, and Western St. John's Post led by Dowling Lee. And you have a number of things there. Yeah, I did capture Hensley, as a matter of fact, I spoke to Hensley Ned when he came from the States for a funeral for his son. I also spoke to Victor Joseph, who was one of the top cricketers at the time.
Right.
But I got some licks with cricket because somehow I couldn't get people to sort of give me much information. I couldn't even get much pictures on cricket in the past. Like they didn't have much pictures on the cricketers at all.
Okay.
So cricket, I took some licks on. I only have maybe about 5 or 6 pages of cricket, and cricket was played since in the 60s. I have most of the teams and some of the players that played for the teams. I had some of the exploit of Victor Joseph and some of the other players from Guav that made the national team.
All right, Napa,
etc. So
Naka, don't give it all away, man, because you want people to read the book, man. Come on. Don't give it all away.
Okay.
But anyhow, I hope that your explanation, has been satisfactory for Anthony, who also goes on to say here that he does believe that Depredine was linked to Fenon's time. He says he's going to check on it.
Oh, you're gonna check on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say to
Okay.
him that Anthony would be
Great.
probably someone that could give him information on
Alrighty, but we
Depredine.
are just past the time for our first break, George.
Bev. Margaret's making a very important point here that Anthony may be able to help Naka, with a book. Naka, if you give me a call tomorrow, I will give you Anthony's contact info. Okay, how about that?
Sure. What's the? You ought to give me your.
Hey, just go to the Grenada Broadcast website and you'll find out how you can get a hold of me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Now, Bev.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Nice talking
Thank
to you,
you,
man.
Bev. I appreciate it.
You
All
are
right.
very welcome.
Good night. Have a good night. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yes, so it's time for our first break, and our guest suspect, Mr. Fitzgerald Naka Joseph, he may or may not stay with us for another little part of the evening, but we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll see.
Malcolm X is known the world over as a civil rights leader, black nationalist.
The Institute for People's Enlightenment, in collaboration with the UWI Open Campus Grenada, presents the 2019 Commemorative Emancipation Lecture at Norton's Hall, Trade Street, St. George's, on Monday, July 29 at 5:30 p.m. The topic, The Making of Grenada and the Grenada Diaspora, the journey of Louise Langdon Norton Little, mother of Malcolm X, from Ladue, Grenada to Montreal, Canada, and to the USA. Presented by Grenadian-born Dr. Merle Collins, Professor of English, University of Maryland, USA.
For more information, email ipeemancipationlectures@gmail.com or call K. Julian Gutu at 459-8967 or Simon Green at 459-1582.
She comes from England, Louis London Little, must be remembered too.
Mr. Watts, wait. Why are you removing my sign?
Sorry, Larry, but you can't put the sign on an electricity pole. That is an accident waiting to happen.
Mr. Watts, man, I just finished this new house. I need to put up a sign so that people would know that the apartment is for rent. Why can't I put my sign on the pole?
Larry, you should know better. Think about it. Nails, staples, glue, and signs make it difficult for linesmen to quickly and safely climb poles, and it can delay their response time when there is an emergency. These objects can prevent linesmen responding as quickly as they should in an emergency.
You know, I've never thought about those things. But you're absolutely right.
On top of that, Larry, your sign was covering the pole identification number. What if someone needed to report a fault? The pole number tells Grenlec exactly where the problem is and allows them to respond faster.
Whoa. I really didn't consider all these things, you know. Come, let me help you take this down.
Remember, be safe, be smart. No more signs, banners, or posters on electricity poles.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and the Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Well, folks, we are back with the usual suspects, and before I hand it back over to them, just want to say hi to a number of people who are on there this evening. I see that Donna Joseph, a faithful Good Day Grenada friend, is with us this evening. Mandu Seals, no kidding, Mandu, how are you, fella? Martin Felix is with us, Ian Thomas, Madonna Hofford. You guys are in good company this evening, man. Madonna Hofford's watching you. Lincoln Depradine, well, we know that Beverly Sinclair is already there. Jennifer Benjamin, Val McLeod, Anthony DeRiggs, yeah, a whole bunch of people. And Mr. Arthurton Martin. Mr. Martin, welcome, sir. It is good to see you. I see that you are.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, I see that you are so well positioned tonight. We don't have to ask you to put your chin up. And so far,
I'm actually standing, George.
Oh,
I'm standing.
Well,
that's why I'm well positioned, and I'm wearing a schoolboy shirt.
A schoolboy shirt. Okay. I can't help but wonder if it's the same with Mr. Astafan, because so far, you notice my pinkies across, so far, we are seeing all of Mr. Astafan's face tonight. And I'm just hoping that it stays right there.
Okay.
Sorry to be late. Good evening.
Good to see you, Dwight. Good
had
to
a
see
little
you.
had a little stuff to do here.
Yeah, okay. And Jerry, as always, looking very pensive tonight. I don't know why.
What's the thing?
Right. Right. Somebody says you're looking for sympathy, Jerry.
What kind, what for?
I can hardly hear you, Jerry.
I said, what kind and what for?
And yeah, Beverly.
Yes.
Let's
yes.
rock.
Yeah, we're getting back down to some other business. And I think we want to jump into elections in Dominica. Dominica is in full-fledged election mode because elections are due next year. Constitutionally due by May next year. Right, Taffy?
That's correct. Correct.
And the major political parties are out there campaigning, but in the midst of it, citizens are calling for some things to change. And I think who is there on the ground and very much involved, he sent us through some points on some of the main areas that for which people are seeking attention. And we want to look at them. We may not be able to go through the entire list of things, but we certainly want to highlight some of them because what is happening in Dominica is not unique to Dominica. These are issues that if they are addressed in Dominica, there is hope that it will be addressed in other islands within the region. So I think I know we were on a radio station with Peter Wickham recently, right?
On Sunday, Observer Radio out of Antigua.
Right, and I managed to tune into that discussion, and it's interesting how Mr. Peter Wickham, the famous pollster, put the campaigning down to nothing but money. He believes that if there's a long campaign, the opposition will run out of money and the incumbent will win.
He also didn't say that if there's a long campaign, he will make a hell of a lot more money as a consultant.
Exactly. He makes more money.
These boys' fees are nothing soft.
Oh,
World Bank rates are a joke compared to what they charge. And they get paid. They get paid upfront.
If nobody else get paid, they get paid.
Absolutely.
Right. But the electoral list is one of the big issues. It's first been made with that, Ati?
Excuse me? No, we could start there because, I mean, you just made the point. The list is indicative of the complex mix of violations that have become the norm in elections, not just in Dominica, you're right, but throughout the English-speaking and the rest of the Caribbean, certainly. And it's interesting that we have observer missions from the Commonwealth, from the OAS, from CARICOM, from the OECS, and whoever else wants to join the gang. And they all write about, well, things were free and fair, etc., etc. We make a few recommendations, and the Commonwealth Secretariat and the OAS in particular over the last two elections in Dominica, 2009, 2014, made very vigorous recommendations with regards to a number of things that they observed that were not fair, that resulted in a very biased electoral process and by extension could in fact influence the outcome and did in fact, in our case, influence the outcome of those two elections. And one of them is the list. And we still have a list, a voters list that is larger in size than the actual population of the country. And we still have people who died 30 or 40 years ago whose names are still on the list. And my parents' names are still on the list. And so, and there's a simple way to get that cleansed. And it doesn't require Parliament to intervene. It simply requires the Electoral Office and the Commission to do its work of getting the data from the registry and cleansing the list. If people move out of the country, yes?
In Grenada, it is in the Representation of the People's Act that every 3 months, I believe, the registrar has to provide the Electoral Office with the people who have died.
Right.
The Electoral Office is supposed to take them off the list. But what's the procedure in Dominica?
It's not happening. First of all, the information is available from the registry, births and deaths. But the action to be taken vis-a-vis the electoral process and the electoral voters list can only be taken by the Electoral Office, and it's not taken.
Oh.
That's the thing. And it's not been done for the last several decades, So we are stuck now with a situation where there's a lot of the names of deceased persons on the list, and what happens is people present themselves and say, if I passed on, somebody will present themselves and say, I am Atherton Martin. And unless there's somebody in the polling booth at the time who says, no, that's not Afi Martin. Afi Martin died so and so and so and so and so. The person cannot be prevented from voting.
Artie, I bet you have a...
The person can be asked to take an oath. If there's a question mark, they can say, you have to take an oath and swear that you are Afi Martin. The person says, sure, I swear that I'm Afi Martin, blah, 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 on the Bible, sign here, and the person votes. So we have had a lot of people, dead people, or people voting against the names of dead people.
But I cannot understand, Ati. If your parents' name is still on that, something is grossly wrong.
Jerry, I can hardly hear you.
Really?
I don't know why, if it's my system.
It's not you, Artie. I can hardly hear him as well, and you're obviously not hearing me because I've been...
My thing is broke.
But I'm hearing everybody.
And George...
Okay, all right. We'll pay close attention.
Yeah.
Hold on, folks. George has been trying to ask a question. I don't know if Ati isn't hearing George.
Artie, are you...
I didn't hear, sorry.
Artie, are you hearing me now?
I'm hearing you now.
Okay. You were talking a little while ago about the observer missions and the fact that, certain recommendations have been made about your process there in Dominica. Well, don't feel too unique because the same thing has been done here. We've had recommendations from the OAS. We have had recommendations from the CARICOM mission. But neither of these recommendations have been acted upon. So I want to hear your idea. What the heck is the sense of having these observer missions come here if when they make recommendations they're not adhered to?
Well, it's for appearance's sake. You have to appear to be conducting a free and fair election so you don't have a problem about people observing.
Oh.
But the problem with the observer missions, I find, is that they come in, a few days before the actual poll?
Yeah.
When the election has been stolen already.
Okay.
And that's the idea behind that list of 17 or 18 actions that have been taken pre-election, weeks and months before the election, which actually are clear and unmistakable evidence of illegality in some cases, of unfairness in most cases, and just blatant, crude, stealing of and violation of the process.
Essentially,
so if a mission, in my view, is to make sense, it needs to be in the country several weeks, minimally, several weeks before the poll.
Essentially, what I'm hearing you say, RT, is that the process has become a farce.
It's a farce.
Thank you.
It's a farce. And for example, if you want to, the Commonwealth Mission and the OAS both observed that they were hearing no opposition voices on state-owned radio and television. And they inquired. And basically, they were told by the managers of these stations that there's no time available. All the time has been purchased by the Labour Party.
But wasn't there a similar thing in Grenada?
So nobody else could get any time on radio or state-owned television. Which has the broadest coverage. So
I was just thinking, if these observer missions are really to make any sense, we must have something enacted in our laws to give them some kind of power.
But they are. That's the point. The laws, the electoral laws, of Dominica anyhow, and I think they mimicked it throughout the region, are very clear and very unambiguous. It is the Electoral Commission that has the authority to manage the process. It is the Chief Electoral Officer that has the authority and can take the instructions from the Commission and do things like, ensure freedom and fairness. It's a bit extending the role of electoral officer, but the Electoral Commission as a commission has a broad mandate to ensure the free and fair conduct of the election, which will include issues like I mentioned in terms of access to media. In addition, the professional associations, the bar associations, whoever else understands why these things have to be done for the preservation of the democratic process and project. They remain silent, they remain quiet, or they take a very partisan position. And once it is their party getting the benefit of the inequality of access, it's okay. And there's the question of finance, electoral finance. How can it be possible? For instance, a couple of weeks ago, for a political party to spend $500,000 to hire a ferry, charter a ferry, and bring 250 passengers from Dominica to Antigua to campaign. The Dominicans resident in Antigua, hotel paid for, pocket change provided for, transportation domestically provided for, and ferry service provided for. $500,000. The Labour Party has never published any accounts. So where is that money coming from? Who are the donors? And so all of this was pointed out by the Commonwealth Secretariat and the OAS in terms of electoral finance, arrangements and so on. But nothing has been or will be done unless something more dramatic happens. And you go through right now, for example, if you live in a part of Dominica and you want to get your roads fixed, you want to get your bridges repaired, etc., just wait. Wait for the date that they're going to launch the Labour Party candidate in your constituency, in your area, and all the roads suddenly get paved. All the bridges get fixed. Or everything gets done. Is that the government? Is that a government program? Or is it the Labour Party as the party that is now in the majority in Parliament, forming the government, making use of state resources to enhance the image and so on of their candidates?
I clearly remember in the last election campaign here in Grenada, one of the candidates on the platform outlined a number of projects to be done in the constituency where he was going to run. And he said, we have to get best value for the money because it's taxpayers' money. And that was on a party platform. When Parliament is dissolved, when there is no cabinet, but you're on a political platform announcing projects and saying you have to get the best value because it's taxpayers' money. When the lines become blurred and when a lot of things really happen, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Not supposed to happen.
You're seeing government vehicles, government civil servants, senior as well as junior civil servants, on the campaign trail with the Labour Party candidates, wearing the red color of the Labour Party during working hours.
Wow.
So you understand, when we say a manual, and these are things that are happening, these are steps being taken to try to guarantee the outcome of the election being favorable to, of course, the incumbent party, because they are the party in government and they are abusing and misusing. Even contracts are given to Labour Party operatives. And if they can't find an operative, they're bringing in firms from other islands and giving them contracts because they don't have enough Labour operatives in construction to pave roads in 21 constituencies.
RT.
Yes.
I don't want to exclude the people who are listening to you very intently tonight, but John here says, it is just not convenient for the powers that be to cleanse the register, is it? And the observers are just on a holiday paid by the powers that be. They're here on vacation. Donna Joseph says, there was a similar situation here in Grenada, especially in the last two elections, where the NNP had booked every spot on both radio and television.
Yeah.
How many of us remember that?
Yeah. Yep, I remember when that news came.
Now, while Artie was talking a few minutes ago, I noticed Dwyer sitting there in the corner, fanning himself, and I guess he was just trying to keep his composure for when he really does let loose. Dwyer, why don't you let us hear you let loose, Dwyer?
Well, I wasn't really chomping at the bit, George. Just listening to what is such a sad and familiar story of this region of ours, which really continues to be a pirate paradise. It's just that our own people are the pirates now. And the pirate elections, the patrimony of the countries, the pirate our dignity, everything. It's just a tale of woe and a tale of emasculation, in my view, because the people, we have chosen to be emasculated. Now, as Afi was talking, I was asking myself, does the private sector in Dominica or Grenada or St. Vincent and the Grenadines or St. Kitts and Nevis or any of these countries, does the private sector really believe in free and fair elections? And the reason I ask is this. If, as you say, the governing party occupies all of the commercial spots on the publicly owned media, a private sector that is committed to transparency and fairness and clean and clear elections would take a concerted position and boycott the public media and not put its dollars in the public media. But they continue to do so. They continue to do so. So they are as culpable as the pirates who we are referring to here. And Afi also referred to the professional associations. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a bar association, and we in the legal community really should be the bulwarks of constitutional and legal matters. I don't know what that was. But we are not. We have a few professionals who speak out. We have over 100 lawyers in this little country. And if you find 5 who speak out, you have a lot. Similarly for the other professional organizations. So how do we expect to have proper election laws and proper administration and monitoring of the election laws? Now, Afi says his parents, Afi, I don't know if you know this, but I met your parents many, many moons ago, when I was a small boy coming to Dominica. If you, as Jerry rightly says, if your parents are on the voters list, then you have a serious problem. You can impersonate voters as easily as that here in St. Kitts, because ID could be demanded of you. But we have a lot of shenanigans and egregiousness that take place still. And this particular administration, in fact, this discussion is topical because they had promised when they got into power, let me rephrase that. They had promised when they got into office in 1995 to introduce a good governance agenda, which was to include substantial electoral reform. They are now 4.5 years into their term, which constitutionally ends by August of next year. So Dominica is May, we are August. So we are in the same season.
Yeah.
They have done nothing insofar as electoral reform is concerned. And the group that I belong to, which is an activist group called Operation Rescue, we were informed that there was a cabinet retreat a few days ago. And it seems that they took the decision, we don't know if it is confirmed yet, we'll find out, to hold off on the electoral reform until the next term. The same thing happened in terms of the integrity in public life legislation, which has been passed and a commission finally put in place, but not properly financed. And the minister responsible, who is supposed to issue an order which would trigger the submissions of personal declaration of net worth, to the commission, that order has not been signed by the minister yet. Likewise for the freedom of information, because all of those things are important determinants for the citizen as to who he or she is going to vote for. That to me is part of elections as well. And none of those things, and some of you guys in your islands have those legislation in place, but they're not functioning properly because there's no desire on the part of those who lead, and might I say, those who aspire to lead, for that level of transparency to obtain in our countries. And while we do not expect much better from them, cynical as that may sound, my major source of disappointment would come from the professional groups and the private sector. And the body politic generally, we seem to like to bend over and take it as we get it. I'll leave it there for now.
Yes. I think we need to take another break now. And when we come back, we will wrap up on this one and we'll move on to what you'd say, a sister point.
Okay.
That was a note on which to take a break.
That was a real note on which to take a break. Very, very art.
You know, Dwyer.
Hey.
Hold on, Artie. Let me take that break and mop my brow here for just a minute, please.
Okay.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
GRENLEC Community Partnership Initiative.
This is not the first time that GRENLEC, through the GCPI, has responded positively to TAMCC, and we are always appreciative for the support. TAMCC, like the GCPI, is geared to service the community. As a college, we cannot accomplish our mission of fostering Grenada's development through education without meaningful partnerships from other community members. GRENLEC has been a leader in this regard.
GRENLEC, energizing our community.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
Alrighty, folks, we are back. Here's a face that you haven't seen a whole lot tonight, but she's been with us from the very outset, Margaret, and she happens to be right here in the studio with me this evening. Thanks a lot for joining us, Margaret. And then as we go up here to the mob, I see that we've now been joined by another face, and let me show you that one here as well. This is Rachel. There she is.
Hi.
Rachel.
Good night, everybody.
And yeah,
The
so
voice.
I'm sure we're going to be hearing from her a little later. Bev is at your top left. I am in the center. On top right is Dwyer. Then bottom left is Artie. And I guess the gentleman who should be sitting in the middle center is trying to find himself a cup of coffee, coconut water, scotch, I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. But there he is, Jerry George.
Hopefully.
Take it away, Bev. Oh, by the way, I know that you're about to wrap the segment, Bev, but John was asking here a little while ago, do any of these political parties ever present accounts of their assets and donors? Or am I just being naive?
Oh gosh, John, you have tickled my funny bone.
George.
Yeah.
If they were compelled to by law, they would do so. But I would guarantee you, you would not even see the tip of the iceberg in terms of the money passing through their hands.
Thank you.
And this is why I keep saying you cannot give an organization, or we should not be giving an organization the running of the country when that organization in and of itself is not subject to the laws of the country. Political parties are not subject to our laws.
They don't comply. They're subject to the laws, but most political parties do not file annual reports, either financial or otherwise, as required by law. They don't hold annual general meetings. They don't have minutes of their meetings and decisions, as are required even by other organizations, non-profits. They do not.
Ati, what I hear about the Labour Party in Dominica, that they have not had a convention for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and the way in which they went about, it's true. And the way they went about selecting their candidates for this upcoming election was in total violation of their own constitution.
But Jerry, may I ask Jerry a question, Bev?
Sure.
Even if they had conferences annually, as I'm sure they should by their constitution, you think it would make any substantive difference? These things are just charades, you know. It's good to appear to be doing something, but if the intent is sinister, the outcome is very likely to be sinister. So the cosmetics don't make much of a difference.
That might be true.
I'm not justifying it, you know, I'm just trying to explain it.
I hear you, but what I'm saying, when a party refuses to abide by its own constitution, and they're the ones in government, this is scary.
But that's what Beverly's saying. She's right.
Yeah.
If you cannot have a democratic party, and when I say democratic, I mean an organization operating on democratic principles, you don't deserve to be running a country.
Exactly.
You're dangerous. You're present danger to the country.
Even if it is a titular kind of a situation where they go through the motions, at least it's like what is said, justice must not only be done,
must be seen to be done.
So in this case, if you don't do it at all, it's contemptuous. I find there's just so much contempt in the region today when it comes to all sorts of things, to the whole government issues. There's just a bunch of contempt that just amazes you.
Why are they getting away with it?
You all were talking earlier about professional bodies. Let me give you an experience I had, and you asked about the private sector. Let me give you an experience I had. When I was the president of the chamber, we were called for a meeting, usual typical budget nonsense by the Prime Minister. We had sat down as a council and had determined that we had certain issues that we wanted to bring. Do you know what happened that morning? And I think this turned me off so much. People, especially the business people, turned up to the meeting with long yellow pads. Their only interest was to find out what capital projects were going to be in the budget. And that's it. all the other issues that we had discussed that we thought were important from a managerial and other perspective were ignored because their interest was to take a list of how many capital projects were supposed to be proposed in the budget, and that's what all they were interested in. And our citizenry, our professional bodies, our corporate bodies, all are responsible for the mess that we're in.
And don't forget, Jerry, those same corporate entities who are looking at the capital projects to see how much money they could get out of the game. Remember, they're going to be called upon at election time to help flying people to vote. So you have that tango that is being danced between money and politicians. And the poor man and woman gets the squeeze inside there. So don't expect ethics to govern that dynamic. Don't expect that. It's the people who have to force that. And that's the problem, we're not forcing it.
And worse, Squire, the people think that with all they carrying on, that they're the ones who select the government, they really believe so.
Well, they have a divine, they were anointed.
That all their plans stuff, that they elect the government.
They feel they are anointed to a point.
No, not just that. They really feel that their vote is what puts the government in office.
Right. What their dollar does.
The votes are just the cosmetic part of it, because you need to count some ballots to let it look like there was an election. You need to count something. But Dwyer keeps talking about the people, and I am so in Dwyer's corner with that, because when you have professional associations talking about they don't want no bacchanalia, and you have others who make excuse for not protesting against anything, and while I agree and fully support taking all of these actions to court, that it's going to take 10 years. You're going through 2 election cycles before any of these things see the light of day. You only get action when you protest. And if you sit down and everybody all of a sudden become wicket keeper, you bend over and you wait for it. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, that's the position that everybody is taking. We are not going to get things to move in the direction that it should be moving. And I don't understand why people are so comfortable with all that is going on. Meet people in the street, everybody is whispering and telling, this and that, and you hear every excuse in the book why they do not want to say anything and they do not want to do anything. And this one say, I'm going to retire in 2 years and 3 years. So when I retire, I'll begin to talk. And then when they retire, if they happen to have worked in the public service, when they retire, they say, I'm still bound by the rules of the public service, so
really
if I'm retired, I can't talk.
Amen. You're right.
I've been told that, and I have heard that.
Me too.
That's why I say you hear every excuse in the book. Why? Yeah, you know that this is going on, and this is going on, but nobody wants to say anything. Nobody wants to rock the boat, Nobody wants to, but they want the ship to change course.
Yeah, but they tell you what you should say. They tell you what you should talk about.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yes.
Like, when you were on radio last night, you should have said this and you should have said that. But you could have called any same time I was on radio. But
yes. Oh, yes.
We all experienced that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. So I don't bother with it, and I certainly don't bother with the people who want to tell me what I should say and how I should say it and what I didn't say and how I should have said what I didn't say. I just don't bother. I don't have time for them. Everyone has a platform that they can use, whether it's in your community, it's in your school, it's in some organization, and if you don't have one, find one. If you have a burning issue that you think you need, that you think needs attention, find a platform and use it. and don't keep jumping on other people's back and expect them to do it for you so that you can stay in your cozy corner. And the day you say, oh, I didn't object, I didn't, and how could he say such a thing? How could she do such a thing? When it's the same thing that you want, but you have no intention of leaving your cozy corner. And that's the kind of society we live in. That is why so much corruption goes unchallenged. So many things go just pass by the wayside, and it's another day. And everybody shrugs their shoulders and it's no big thing. Let's just move on.
Well, tyrants love timid people, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The tyrants love timid people.
Yeah.
And in this region, we have a lot of energy to argue robustly about who is a better basketball player, whether it's Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, or the Cleveland Cavaliers are better than the New York Knicks, and this and that, and Muhammad Ali is this and that. And we don't have the appetite to discuss robustly our own affairs. And we are on the brink of catastrophe in so many ways.
Yeah,
we don't have the appetite for it. We are living under distraction in these islands. And the tyrants love the timid ones. And a lot of us are timid.
I have been at the Canto conference this week, right? And I raised that sternly with Flo, right? I said to them in one of their sessions, I said, listen, you are every time you talk about food, you talk about the entertainment channels you bring to the region. I said to them, I asked them, I said, doesn't this area need development? They agreed. I said, but every time my phone rings about food, it's about another sports channel, another this channel. I said, there are no channels for development. And when you show us about ourselves, we're always whining, gyrating, and drinking rum. I said,
exactly. Exactly.
And then, so when it's the football season, you look at Facebook, everybody has a comment to make about Man United, Chelsea, this, that, there. And you should see how much time is spent treating with that. When it comes to what is happening outside their front door, in terms of what will affect their existence, crickets.
But Jerry, look at what has happened in Grenada over these past few weeks. We have a businesswoman in Grenada who wants to have her product as part of the offerings for Carnival. And you have a public corporation which has instituted some laws that when there is one product of this type, this person sign on as a sponsor in some. They sign on as a sponsor and they're not allowed to have any competing products in the festival, in any of the official Spice Corporation activities. Now, this businesswoman realized that this is wrong. A public corporation which is funded by taxpayers cannot sign on a sponsor and block out other people with competing products without going through a bidding process. So she challenged it. A lot of things went on, but the bottom line is that she challenged it. She took the matter to court. And the court says, well, we do not have enough time to hear this matter because Carnival is 2 weeks away. So in the meantime, what we're telling the Spice Mass Corporation is that you have to remove that clause from the contract to give to vendors. You cannot tell them that they can't sell any other product. They're free to sell whatever they want. And let me tell you something, an issue like this, which affects everybody in business, you would be surprised to hear what some people in Grenada are saying. You'd be surprised, you'd be appalled, because everything comes back to politics and you have to take a political position instead of taking a developmental and a big position to say, yeah, it's been a long time since these gates need to be open. On the one hand, you tout Carnival as a public event, and on the other hand, you want to lock it up as a private event and make it a little boys club and invite in who you want and keep out who you don't want. And at the end of the day, it's taxpayers who are paying for it every single year. The Carnival Committee never makes enough money to do business. Never. And it does not use the opportunities that are wide open in front of you to earn money because it's a little boys club and only some people can get in. And when this one woman tried to challenge it, man, I tell you, I don't know if she have any flesh leave on her body because the same people who are going to benefit from it can't even see that they're going to benefit from it. And when they need to keep silent, they talk stupidness. They need to talk, they keep silent. Because if the court says what you have done was procedurally incorrect, everything which falls from it is incorrect. And then a whole bag of noise out there. Sing the woman. I don't think she can walk on the street because every time she go on the street, they must fuss her clothes and the clothes drop off her. And it is a matter of law. Why are we lawless? Why do we like to support lawlessness?
No, listen to me. It's actually deeper than just supporting lawlessness. We have, I think, a society today where people have the ability, and especially if they perceive, like for example, the lady of whom you speak, she's a businesswoman. First of all, she's making too much money. That's where it starts, you know. It starts that the people who take the risk and go out there and are disciplined and consistent and can earn a living. What is even worse is that the people running the government institutions, right? They don't dare miss a salary tomorrow. They don't dare. But this woman who has the ability to make their salary and help them make their salary is being treated as if she is some second class, low class.
And
it's because of the kind of society that we have built. And it is because of the kinds of people that we have put in certain places. And
let me add to that, Jerry. Let me add to that, Jerry. The people who sit in these decision-making seats have not invested one penny into the country. They have not employed through their investment anybody who can say they are depending on this job to pay their bills. They have not taken up that kind of ownership of the country. And it is something I've looked at even with our members of parliament and people who feel like they are entitled to the taxpayers' money, you know. They invest nothing. They employ nobody. They do not contribute to the development of the country, but yet still, they sit in seats of authority, and people who have something to contribute, people who can make a difference, you want to block them out because they're not the right color, on the right side of the tracks as far as you are concerned. They can't get any kickback from what they're doing. I'm putting that on the table too because that makes a big difference in many cases. And you know that certain things will not happen here. So you look at this person, totally disregard any contribution that they can make to the development of the country, which we so want to develop. But yet still we do everything we can. Some salaried people in the way of investment to start investment. And it's the same salaried people who are paying the taxes, who run these corporations, who salaries for these people who sit there and block. And somebody thinks that makes sense.
No, it is painful because when these people go out of their way, make the investment, take the risk. If they lose, they lose. These people, all they get is a salary that they walk home with. That's all they get. Nothing. And I'm saying it's because we continue to put people in these positions who have no sense of business, who have no sense of society, who have no sense of nothing, who feel that they can use their position. I'm sorry. Who feels that they can use their position to thumb somebody in the face because they support a political party.
Yeah.
Really?
And they feel empowered because of their political connections, which are societies that once you're politically connected, you're untouchable, you know? And this kind of thing goes on, and the large majority of society supports it, and they back it, and they cannot see that 50 years from now, Grenada is gonna be in the same position it is in now, with welfare growing, government putting systems in place so you cannot abuse $50 voucher, you cannot abuse $100 voucher, but you can abuse a cell phone contract.
Just that to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars.
To the tune of $22,000 and $23,000 a month. That can be used. But if you get a voucher to go get some books, your child to go to school, don't you dare think you can abuse that, you know. Make a place to prevent that.
This is part of the picture of the delusion of development that we live under in this region. Most of us don't get it. What we're having here, with the greatest of respect, is not genuine development. Development can only be development if it affects in a positive way people. And there are too many wrong things that are going on, or too many things that are going on in the wrong way for anybody to reasonably and logically conclude that we as a group of islands or individually are really on a path to genuine development. And as long as people are living this delusional life, you put on the smallest outfit for carnival and show the most you can. You buy a weave to put on every 3 months or 2 months, you change your nails, everybody must have a BMW, whether you could afford it or not. You must have 9 women and 18 children to show you're a man. You must have 8 men to show that you're a woman, the one you love, the one who is the sugar daddy. This kind of the poor education system we have, the lack of priorities in terms of infrastructure. Athis pointed to it last week. He frightened me last week when he said St. Kitts and Nevis is the fastest eroding landmass in the region. This scared the hell out of me. I woke up every night a few nights ago thinking about fastest eroding in terms of physical erosion of the island. They're our primary issues: water safety, food safety, atmosphere, soil protection. All of these things are our infrastructure, education, health. Not all this crap that we're doing calling it development.
Dwyer.
Sorry, sir. Yes, George.
No.
Sorry, I'm getting a little heated.
No.
I apologize.
No. Hey, Dwyer. No need for apology. I just wanted to throw something in here. Since you're talking about erosion, Dwyer, your face is eroding rapidly on my screen. Dwyer.
Sorry, getting comfortable.
Dwyer, please. Dwyer, look.
Hi.
Dwyer, look. You notice that Mr. Martin tonight has been standing. Did you notice that?
You want me to stand?
Let's just try it. Stand up for a minute. Let's see where we wind up. Stand up for a minute.
If I stand up, you won't see me.
He's gonna go put up his frame.
Okay. I don't know. But we
sorry. I was getting heated and comfortable.
Hey.
I'll cool down and become uncomfortable.
I understand that, Dwyer, and we have no issue with that. No issue, none.
Listen, remember, it's what I say, it's not how I look.
but we just want to see who's saying it, Dwyer.
Okay.
Anyhow, can I just take a little break here, guys, and we'll come back for a final half hour or so? Okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put me food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
GRENADABROADCAST Community Partnership Initiative.
This is not the first time that GRENLEC, through the GCPI, has responded positively to TAMCC, and we are always appreciative for the support. TAMCC, like the GCPI, is geared to service the community. As a college, we cannot accomplish our mission of fostering Grenada's development through education without meaningful partnerships from other community members. GRENLEC has been a leader in this regard.
GRENADABROADCAST Energizing our community.
Studying too hard about back to school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Alrighty, folks, we are back with the usual suspects for our final little segment here tonight. Dwyer, Jerry, Rachel, Beverly, RT, and then this lady who's sitting here with me. She's decided to stay away from the suspects tonight. She's with the little boy here in the studio. That's old Margaret. Okay, folks, Beverly, so what you got for the next, let's see here, 23 minutes or so?
We also have on the menu this evening a situation which falls in line with what we've been saying here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where the Caribbean Development Bank had to take back some money from the country because our contract was not properly awarded. That has gone into another spin, and Jerry will tell us about that contract, why it was withdrawn, and subsequently what the Prime Minister has said about CDB taking back its money and asking them to repay, asking the country to repay what was given already with interest.
This is a situation where a company that was awarded, I guess, but why particularly, and Ati will know the process that this whole thing goes through. The process for an award of a contract is a very lengthy and involved process. And in fact, in the terms of integrity commissions, etc., procurement is one of the key areas that they look for corruption.
That's correct.
Well, yeah, this company did it. They had the lowest bid, and they were not awarded the contract. But when they looked at the company that was awarded the contract, they realized a couple of things. One, the most important of them, is that the company had never done, ever, any such kind of work. There was no record of them doing that kind of work. So they took an objection to the ministry involved and then took it up with the CDP. who said to them, we will do our own investigation. So when the CDB did their investigation, they found, lo and behold, that this company that had been given the award and had already been given 10% of the $1.4 million, in truth and in fact, really did not qualify. So the CDB rescinded the contract and asked the government to pay back the monies that were already expended with interest. Now, from all that we have heard, this has never happened before. This is a first that the CDB has had to take such drastic action. But it really again comes back to how things are done in our civil service. And the Prime Minister went on radio on Sunday to try to make the twist that the people were questioning the integrity of the tender board. But the people who evaluated the contracts are really the ones who send the evaluation up to the tender board, and once they seem to have followed a certain the tender board will okay it. Long and short of the story is that the Prime Minister wants the CDB not to charge interest, all right, for one thing. But out of the same breath says that the cabinet has determined that the same company, that the CDB, who has all of the, whatever it takes to determine the qualifications of the company, right? And the CDB said they failed the qualification test. The government, the Prime Minister says, the cabinet has determined that that same company will do the contract. Paid for now by taxpayers' money, right? Knowing that the institution with all of the resources and personnel to make the judgment call on this business has failed them. This is the level of contempt that continues to manifest itself across our region in one way or another. And I don't know when we are going to put a stop to it. Because to me, it's rank contempt. In so much so that after I listened to what the Prime Minister had to say, came on air on Sunday, didn't take any calls, but he spouted and they put out a release by the government. I had to say, well, the only other thing, Mr. Prime Minister, is that I'm awaiting an apology from the CDB. Because he said he did everything right.
Jerry, does St. Vincent and the Grenadines have a Procurement and Contracts Administration Act?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a procurement board?
Yeah, that's what they call it, tendering board.
You sure it's the same thing?
That's what I'm saying. Well, maybe it's not the same thing, but the point is, the Prime Minister on Sunday named the members of the board and said, oh, these are people of high integrity, this, that, terror. When the same guy, and what is great about it, the company that challenged it, his wife is a lawyer. And she had gone out and done a special course in understanding how procurement works, how it should work. So she recognized that she could challenge it, and she did. In fact, today I'm hearing that they challenged another thing, and they have won it in court. But it is only when I spoke to him before Sunday the story broke, he told me people call and tell him, boy, you think you're going too far this time? It's super powerful, you know what they could do you. And that's what continues to, when good men do not, evil assists. And that is what is wrong with most of our society in the region. Everybody wants to be nice. Nobody wants to rock the boat, but they want the society to change.
Procurements are one of the major sources of corruption.
Yep.
Okay? We had the OAS do an analysis here in October of last year, and they wrote a report in March of this year, and they went to town on our Procurements Act. It is serially defective, and it is an act that is on the books for 7 years, and we don't even have a procurement board under that act, and we don't even have regulations.
And they do that on purpose.
Exactly. This is the piracy that I talked about earlier.
Exactly. Listen to me. One of the things I keep promising myself to do, and I really should get down with, is how many acts have been passed in Parliament that has not been assented by the Governor General. They go through the motions, they have the debates.
Well, it's not passed. If it's not assented to and gazetted, it's not law. If it's not assented to and gazetted, it's not law.
Precisely.
Even sometimes you pass it into law, Jerry. It will have a provision and said it will come into effect on a day appointed by the minister. Or to trigger it or some key provisions in it, there would be something saying the minister shall make an order. This shall happen when the minister issues an order, whatever the case may be. And so they put them there, but they don't complete the process because they are not enthusiastic about transparency.
The Freedom of Information Act is one of those that they play that game with. Because to the international community, they can send and say, listen, this matter was debated in Parliament and it was passed.
Yeah.
And it probably doesn't look for the next leg. The next leg is it never gets assented by the Governor General. So it's not law.
Well, ours has been assented to and gazetted, but we do not have an information commissioner.
There you go.
The information commissioner does not have an office, doesn't have staff. So listen, these guys are not interested in transparency, you know.
No.
They're not interested in it. And this is why I said the onus is on the people. And if our people continue to be undereducated, technically and civically, then this will continue. And if they're not going to educate us, we have to educate ourselves.
Exactly.
And if we continue to get distracted or to indulge ourselves in distractions, we will be responsible for our own undereducation.
Which we are at the moment.
We are in the intensive care, you know. As a society, Caribbean society is in the intensive care unit.
Oh yes.
But let me add something to that procurement and tender thing and opportunities it provides for corruption and money laundering and thieving. Over the years, there have been a few innovative ways that politicians in our region have tried to get away from this accountability question, which is raised by the tender boards and so on. One of them, they created this position. Almost in every ministry now, you will find a procurement officer.
Yeah, under the Act, yes.
Yeah, but that procurement officer behaves not under the Act. He behaves like a civil servant responding to a politician, at least in our. Okay?
That's not how he's supposed to operate.
And it's illegal, it's improper, it's inefficient, but that was tried. Then the international agencies, the aid agencies came in and said, no. This is not acceptable. You need to create something else. So guess what? They were told to create project management units, PMUs. There are now dozens of project management units throughout our entire system. That was supposed to be the answer. That was supposed to provide the protection of a one-man procurement officer making decisions and so on who gets what. Interestingly, the project management units have to be appointed by the minister. And so they recycle some of these former procurement officers and the buddies and friends into project management units, fertilizing it, sprinkling it with one or two people of unquestionable bona fide
that is what they do.
Professional capacity and so on. But the decisions were made notwithstanding those. In Dominica, we have the latest, if you will, manifestation of the evolution of this process of trying to get away from accounting for international funds. We have something called the CREED, which is, the E in it is the key word. It's an executing agency. Not to cut off your neck, but to carry out projects. And the international agencies, namely the British government in particular, agreed to pay for the salaries of the persons who comprised this CREED, this creature, which is the executing agency, which now has the responsibility for managing a whole range of public sector projects, including infrastructure projects. The international agencies said their safeguard was they would be part of the recruitment of the people who were going to staff that, and they would be recruited internationally. There were 12 positions, 9 of them had to be people who were not Dominicans. The other 3 were Dominicans and were administrative. What's interesting, listen to this, the average salary per month paid for by the British of this executing agency is 50,000 EC dollars.
50?
50,000 EC per month.
Where's one of those?
Wow.
So that is the creed. That is the agency that is now in charge of implementing all the projects, etc. And that is how the international agencies feel that they will overcome this lack of transparency. But guess what? Our politicians are on the ball again. Who appoints? Who signs? Everything goes up to the Prime Minister as Finance Minister and back down.
Mm-hmm.
So in a real sense, folks, unless we do what the Hong Kong people did, or what the Sudan people did, or what the Puerto Rico people just did, unless we do those kinds of actions that let those politicians know that they are not our masters, they are not in charge. They have been commissioned to do a job for a specified period of time, guided, and so forth. Unless we do that, you know, I'll be 102 years old and you will be still asking me to come on a program like that to discuss it. I'm sorry, but I probably wouldn't be able to speak. But I'm telling you beforehand what my answer at that age would be. I'm not interested because then we haven't solved this problem of bad government, of corrupt government, of indiscriminate absconding and stealing and thieving of public money for private gain. No matter what you want to call it, that's what it is. You ask a man to work, to do a job for you, he comes to your house to paint, and he thieves everything in the house and take it to his house. And you still paying him. So that's what has to be fixed.
And Aki said something here.
I'm silent because, frankly, you know, the shit has hit the fan. Literally. And if we don't want to smell it, it's because we don't want to smell it.
Afi, you said something which is so profound that when you are 102, you may be invited to discuss this thing. What is critically missing in our society today? Youth advocacy. You do not see young people taking interest in their own future. All they do is decide, rum, sofa, party.
You know who the real entrepreneurs in the Caribbean are today? Young people. They are the entrepreneurs of violence. They are the entrepreneurs of drugs. The entrepreneurs of crime. A couple of days ago in Dominica, we watched on CCTV in a shop a young man walking with a handheld Uzi and wipe out somebody.
Really?
In
Out
Dominica?
of that shop. It takes a hell of a lot of organization, management, and planning to get an Uzi, to find it, and to come and to do something like that. These are the entrepreneurs, but they're entrepreneuring the death of themselves and by extension the death of the society. But they're not foolish people. They're very bright, and we're not listening, and we're not saying, okay guys, let's monitor, let's steward, let's guide, let's shepherd, let's do whatever. And so they're on their own. They're on their own.
Because the young generation, when we speak to them in this kind of language, they don't have any time to listen to us and to bother with us. They are into entertainment. Jerry spoke about it, Dwyer spoke about it. It's a culture of music and sports, nothing else.
I disagree with that. I'll tell you why. If you look to the background of who organizes music events, who organizes sporting events, it's not the young people. It's adults. It's a few cronies who have access to the stadia in our region, who have access to radio, and they use those young musicians as the front to make it look like the young people are finally coming into their own. But who makes the money from a festival?
Well,
who walks home with the money?
No, I am not disagreeing with any of that, Aki. But what I'm saying, the young people are not interested in their own future. They are not into advocacy. They are not into civics. They are not into learning how governments work. They're not into learning about governance. They're not, and the entrepreneurship that they get involved in that you mentioned is what is destroying the future. Because
they already know that government does not work. They know that government works only in the of a few politicians. So they're not going to waste their time like us trying to figure it out. They figured it out.
Well, that is exactly. We're saying the same thing, you know. We're saying the same thing. Okay. But I'm looking at it in a very, very, with a very, very sad eyes, with very sad eyes. Because when it is time, because just like you say, when you're 102, you're not gonna be on no program. None of us here. Well, I can't say the same for me if I ever get ill. If I live to be 55, I'll believe I've had a long and happy life. None of us at 102 to be doing what we are doing now. But the next generation at 35 and 45, if they're not doing it, what kind of societies are we going to have? And they don't realize that they are the ones who are going to be living in the society that they are creating because they're not paying attention to the right things. They are not.
Beverly, you know who are the evangelists of the era? The soca people is who instruct and direct the young people. Yes. They are the ones who tell them what to do, how to do it. They are the ones they listen to. Get on board. Show me what
yes, Jerry. Yes, Jerry. And when our societies are either A, colonized again, which I believe is where they are going, or B, just cut off from the rest of the world, can't interact, can't trade, can't get no financing, nothing can happen, and we become some of the most impoverished societies in the world because we are destroying them now. And there are two roads before the youth: impoverish or colonization. And at the rate which they are going, they're choosing one. And they are encouraged by the adults, Aki. It's the adult.
Because there's another choice.
Yeah, it's the adult generation that raised this generation.
That's right.
Young people, excuse me.
Yeah, we don't
care.
And there's a third choice, a third option, which is to kill yourself and the society slowly. And that is happening.
Well, that is happening.
The articles I sent to you about the poisoning of the farming communities throughout the Caribbean by the use of carcinogenic and other toxic substances in agriculture, principally the production of bananas throughout the region, that has cut the birth rate, that has sterilized a large number of males in the society, and has actually caused the birth rate to drop in most of the English-speaking Caribbean and French-speaking Caribbean, and has poisoned our soils and poisoned our groundwater
We're running out of time. We're running out of time. We're down to the last few seconds. But the issue of the birth rate was raised in Grenada recently. But from the perspective that the NIS will not have money because enough people are not being born to get to work to pay NIS. So those young people who are enjoying the rum and soca now, when they're ready for pension, they want my dime.
Okay.
I guess we gotta wrap it here. Gotta wrap it here. George, once again, thanks for accommodating us on this another edition of Mek We Chat via Dappy, Rachel, Bev, on behalf of the and the person who is in the background, the fair-skinned one who Rachel met in the background off camera. Nice to have you in Grenada. I'm Jerry George. Join us again next week for another edition of Mek We Chat. So long, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.